Hey, it's Alvin from Unleash. Today we are going to add feature flags with Unleash with Rust. This is an example how to add feature flags to any Rust applications really. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is clone Unleash, get it going locally. So we can clone the repo, github.com/unleash/unleash. I already have it. Then we can go into the repo and start Unleash. So we need to get it going with Docker. So I don't have Docker on my computer. I use something called Kalima, but it doesn't really matter. So that's basically my Docker runtime. So yeah, make sure Docker is running or an equivalent. And now you have your Docker or equivalent running. Can get it to run. Docker compose up -d. And now it's created the containers for Unleash. This is all you need to know. And now Unleash is available to you. It's running right now. And it's available to you on localhost 4242. Now it's asking you to log in. And the default credentials are admin as a username for the admin user. And the password is Unleash 4, digit 4, all, AAL. Right, now we have a bunch of feature flags that are already there in your project, and we're going to create a new one just for this one. So we want to create a feature flag called WebP, and this is what we're going to do. So give it a little bit of space and create a new feature flag. So this could be anything you want. In my example, I want to keep it nice and tight and contained. So for Rust, you can imagine a scenario where, like, similar to here, right? You can have a web app and you have users and you want them to be able to upload photos, and you'd have let's say there's a Rust service that is responsible for converting these photos to a lighter format. So in our case, could be from PNG to JPEG to WebP. So we'll do JPEG by default and have WebP behind the feature flag. So I'm going to call this feature flag WebP. And that's it. Create it. Perfect. And now it's disabled and we will enable it later. Okay, so I have this feature flag called WebP. It's ready. Cool. Now let's code some Rust. So let's get out of Unleash, let's get out of Unleash. Now let's make a folder called, I don't know, Rust video something. There we go. Now, and this is where we'll put our Rust project, so it's kind of nice and contained. Okay, let's create a new Rust project. Let's call it Rust feature flag tutorial or something. So cargo new Rust FF tutorial. Right, perfect. Now cd into that folder and open our text editor there. Okay, so we have a pretty standard Rust project here. It's empty. There's a couple of things we need to add. So I'll be somewhat following our official Rust tutorial. So feel free to refer to that. There's going to be a link to it in the description box below the video. Okay, so we've done all of that. What's important here is we need an image to try to see if our thing works. So we'll be using this one. So make sure to save it. Perfect. I already have it in my documents. So let me go to that. I already have my input image here. So let me drop it in my folder. So we could have an image to test our code. So, and we're going to use this image right here. And just a reminder, we'll be then toggling this WebP feature flag. Okay, let's tidy things up a little bit. Okay, make sure everything is in the right place. So we're going to need some dependencies. So again, if you're feeling a bit lost, everything is here. So how do we process images out of the box? Well, we can't. This is Rust for you. So we're going to need some dependencies. The first one is a crate called just image, and the other one for WebP conversion is going to be called WebP. So let's go cargo, add, image, and the WebP. These are our and let's go back to Unleash. Well, it's compiling. Okay, now let's run. So then you want it to compile everything. It's going to take a little longer because it's compiling your code, so the hello world that we have, and the dependencies. Okay, everything's working, perfect. So first we want to read that image, the input image. Let's do that. So let's make a function called process image, maybe. Call it here. And let's create that function, process image. And cool. So first we need to read our image file. So let's read that image, but in the variable, so we can then convert it from PNG to a better format. First, it's going to be JPEG. Let's do that. So we can do image reader and then open. Perfect. So the path to our image is going to be input PNG. And then right, so we can see that it returns a result type, so we don't necessarily want to mess with that. So we'll make sure our function itself returns a result type as well. So we can give it OK or dynamic and error. Now we can do that, and we can do here's the slightly nicer syntax, rather with the question mark rather than do unwrap madness. Okay. And now, as I just said, it's okay. Cool. That we need to now update our main function because it's now also expecting a result, so it's complaining. We do the same thing. An OK type or box with a dynamic. Perfect. Okay, cool. So now process image is working and it needs to be. And now we need to tell it that everything's okay. Now, let's see if it works. Run. It is working. Perfect. So we've read our input image, and now we want to convert it. So first we'll convert it to JPEG. And we have a very nice and clean method in the image crate called save with format. We give it the path. That's the path of the output. In our case, it's going to be output JPEG. Give it a format, and this is one of the image format types. Image format JPEG. And then it's image format JPEG. That's going to be image.image format JPEG. So let me make that a little bit bigger. You can see what I'm doing. And this is also returning a result type, I believe. Yeah, an image result, same thing. Okay. Cool. So now we're saving our image. Let's run our script again. And we've got a very basic PNG to JPEG converter. Let's see if it works. So perfect. It is the great wave again in the JPEG format. Beautiful. Now we want to. JPEG is great, but WebP is even better. So let's try that. Let's see if we can convert it to WebP. And for that, we're using a very nice specialized crate called WebP. So the way to do this is, so first, we'll make sure to do this behind the feature flag. That's kind of the whole point of this, right? Making sure we can enable or disable this feature and all the benefits that come with feature flags. So what does that look like in the code? First, let's do it with a static feature flag. Make things very simple. So we'll just use a variable called is p. Set this to true. And then we'll pass that to our process image function, right? Yes, I know you want it, so it's expecting that this is WebP. Boolean. Check. And now let's see if this WebP is true, then we'll convert it to WebP. Otherwise, we'll convert it to JPEG. And this will be the same thing when we connect, unleash, and use the feature flag. Perfect. And this is where our WebP crate comes into place. So it lets us take an image from this variable and encode it into WebP. So let's do that. Let WebP encode it into a data buffer, which is a bit annoying, but it's fine. It's worth the hassle with the saving is in image sizes you get from image. Perfect. And now we can give it our image from above. Dynamic. Also to use the question mark. And we can then encode that into WebP in the specified quality, so between 0 and 100. So let's put 75. Let's put 50. Right. Now we need to save. Now we have this data in memory, again, this buffer. And we want to save that into a file. So we'll use the fs crate. Give me that. And we'll write to a file that we can call output.webp. And for contents, or we're going to give it this WebP data. We can't use it as a disk because it's memory, so we have to turn it into basically binary data. And this also expects results. We're using the question mark. And here we go. So right now this WebP is true. If we run our project, and it's expected to float. Doing it again, if. Perfect, it's working now. So we should now have this output.webp file, which is there. So if I reveal it in the Finder, we can see that it's much smaller. So our original PNG was 700 kilobytes, JPEG was 123, and the WebP is 68. And we could play around with the quality depending on what we need. We could play around with this quality factor. But yeah, now we have this feature flag, which is this static variable. So now we need to connect it to Unleash. Now this is where things get a little bit more complicated because you're going to need to do things asynchronously. You need our server-side SDKs will evaluate the flags themselves. They're not calling Unleash to do that. So it's a bit more involved and needs like async, and everyone who's worked with Rust knows that async and threads are not very easy to set up. But if you've gone through all of this, you understand the principle, right? So let's go back to our tutorial and add Unleash. So we have a bunch of dependencies to install. That's it. Sped things up a little bit for you. And then there's a bunch of things happening with Tokyo, which is what we're picking in this example, but you can use another async runtime if you want. You can use async standard or threads, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to reuse this code. This is another Rust async tutorial. There are millions of these on the internet. This would also take a very long time. So as far as our process is concerned, just copying from the tutorial, making sure that we are creating the Unleash client, registering, starting a new process, evaluating the feature flag, our feature flag called WebP, passing the result of that to our function, and then we can run. And we can see what happens. It's going to take a while for the first time. Yeah. And now we can see it's generated another one, a JPEG, because the feature flag is disabled, which is what we want. Perfect. I think that's it. Thank you very much.